What is the biggest part of Paralympic sports is the part that you never see? Hi, I'm Grace Newfer.
And I'm Olivia Chambers.
We're Paralympic swimmers, but this isn't a podcast about the medals.
It's about the stories people don't expect, the ones that don't make the highlight reel.
This is Optical Delusion, telling the stories that we didn't see coming, but you probably didn't either.
Each episode, we're sitting down with Paralympic athletes and people with disabilities to talk honestly about identity, sport, failure, success, and everything in between.
No inspirational cliches and no watered down narratives.
Just real stories told by the people who live them. Welcome in, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Get excited because today we have a 2012 bronze Paralympic medalist, another swimmer with us, and co-founder of Culxtured. Here is Anna.
Hi, everyone. So
Yay!
excited to be
Welcome
here.
in. Yes, we're so excited that you were interested in being on our podcast. Obviously, as swimmers, past and present, we can probably relate to a lot of things, and we're excited to get
Yes.
into a conversation. And before we do that, though, because we do have quite a few questions lined up for you, would you mind giving a little spark note blurb about yourself, who you are, so that our audience can know whose story they're listening to today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try not to be too verbose.
You're good.
I was born without my left hand and forearm, and I was actually adopted from a very small country called Kyrgyzstan. And so I was adopted when I was 2, and just really took to the water. And so my swim career just took me places that I never dreamed of, especially being a disabled person and trying to swim in a non-disabled world. And so was very lucky to get involved with the Paralympics since I was 10, so very young age. And it all just kind of snowballed, like you said, into London. It was absolutely incredible. I think the fact that that's what was my one and only games. But what a freaking games to have! It was absolutely amazing. The crowds, the country, the culture, the community. It was just so incredible. And so I was training for Rio, but I ended up having to have a last minute surgery, which took me out of contention, like very within the window of trials. And so had to retire and change completely different personality, basically completely different life. So I retired, and then I've been in the corporate world for about the past decade or so, trying to take the corporate world on by storm. But it's been an extremely uphill battle. They are not super interested in DE&I, and that very, very much includes disability. And so I have bit-bopped around and did my best, but it got to a bit of a point that I just knew that I wasn't going to make the progress that I wanted to make. And so I hopped off the ladder and started my own business called On the One Hand Consulting, because I think I'm very funny. And I
I
like
like
to,
it.
yeah, like poke holes at the system, the words we
Yeah.
use, the systems and stuff like that. And so doing that, consulting in universal design and storytelling. But as you mentioned, my next new adventure, because apparently I don't know how to sit still, is joining Cultured. So really excited about that. Been on that for a couple months now, and so really trying to see what the next wave of Cultured, if you will, is.
Yeah, I saw you join Culture and I was like, "Okay, swimmer in the house, like, let's
Yup.
go, let's go."
I
And
know.
I
Yes.
love the pun in your consulting agency's name, obviously Optical Delusion. We can share respect for
Mhm.
some disabled jokes around here for sure.
Exactly. Everyone loves a pun, and especially one that makes them think, because they giggle, and then it's like ha 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 ha. So it's always good.
The
Yeah, it's
progression,
like, can I laugh?
exactly. Can I
Yeah,
laugh?
exactly. Yeah, ha ha ha. You're like, no, it's cool. I made the joke. It's fine.
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
laugh if I make it.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Where you kind of ended off with your blurb about yourself is kind of where we started with the questions with like you
Yeah.
recently joining Cultured. How's that been like? Kind of what is your job and role within the group? And
Which
just for
Yeah.
our
also
audience, what is Cultured?
I think for the audience, maybe if you could just summarize what culture is, just in
Yeah.
case they live under a rock.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I don't want to assume and all that. Yes,
Don't
exactly.
assume.
So exactly. So, Cultured is a social media collective dedicated to changing the narrative around parasport and building the culture of it. And so, to be honest, we are figuring out what that means. We started right after Paris. And so Milan was our first games of coverage, and two of our co-founders were at the games, and then one of them broke his foot, and one of them has a full-time job. And so I ended up being the social media person because Danny, God love her, is literally competing at the games. And so I'm like, yes, RT, yes, Twitter, I know what I'm doing. And so it's been a bit of a whirlwind, but that's really why I came in, is to kind of take my corporate strategy background and bring it to culture to like it's very good and well to say we want to change the narrative, but what does that mean? How are we doing that? And
Mhm.
really connecting those dots, because I mean, there's so many, as you guys know, there's so many different fights to fight. And so we're really trying to figure out like where we can serve the most amount of people, and really close the gap in fandom. I mean, Paralympians deserve the attention and the media coverage and the fanfare that Olympians and elite athletes get. And so that's what we're really working on now. And we're kind of going into this super fun 2.0, getting ready for LA 28 type of thing. And so that's a little bit about where we're at, what the heck I'm doing there. But it's, five Paralympians. So four of the other Paralympians, it's Brenna Huckabee, absolute wonderful human being and rock star. Danny Arovich, absolutely same thing, strong speaker, especially, in the spaces that we don't usually get in. And then Ryan Newswinder, he's, working really hard and doing the corporate ladder thing and working at Visa. And then we've got, Chuck Aogi, everyone knows Chuck. And so we're just lucky to have him mentioning us, really, is what that is. So it's an amazing group of people with an amazing goal. It's just now strategizing and really figuring out what that means to our community.
Yeah, and I think that OC and I can relate when you guys are like have these goals of just like expanding Paralympic sport, and like maybe if Paralympic sport was more mainstream, people would watch because it's actually so interesting. And actually, like us starting our podcast, we were like, wait, we should like do something with Cultured because we're on the same page with like the mission. So I love seeing when so I'm assuming if you're doing social media, you're the one collaborating on all the reels with us.
Sometimes. So sometimes that's the fun super part where it could be Brenna, it could be me, it could be Danny. It's kind of fun. So, and that's
No
why we're
idea.
trying to work out the system. So, and things like that. But yes, it is me. I've been stalking, getting to know you guys through those
Oh.
collabs while I was running through the Milan stuff. So yeah, it was me sometimes. Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Instagram, y'all really upped your posting. And there's been a lot
Mhm.
of like, I love seeing all the, random fun videos of like Danny running around Milan, just like asking people questions or just, seeing all the behind the scenes has been really fun. Cause
Mhm.
like as summer Paralympians, like seeing the winter
Mm.
games was really cool because they're
Oh
so
my
different.
gosh. So
And
Yeah.
different.
you get to like live vicariously through them and like I was like sitting back reminiscing on our Paris days and I was
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
this is so fun.
Yeah.
It like
Yeah.
humanizes it.
It does that, and then also, I think we as athletes can get stuck in our own bubbles as well, and I think
Mhm.
Milan really broke that bubble for the Winter Paralympics. And like, obviously running culture social media, I was a little bit on top of it, trying to I had like 7 different screens watching everything.
Right.
But being
Yeah.
a summer Paralympian, people are like, "Oh my gosh, you guys are, so strong, so amazing." And I'm like, "Those Paralympians are throwing their bodies down a mountain covered in ice." You know what I mean? And they're like,
Yeah.
"Sure." Strapped into carbon fiber, and you're like,
Right?
"Yeah, I'll stick to the
Go
pool."
for
No,
it.
no, thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I'm good with my black lines in the walls. Like, I don't need to leave
That
As long
is
as
there.
I
We're
can
good.
float, I'm good.
like, yeah, it was like for swimming, the only contact is literally just our S11, 12, and 13. You know what I mean? Like that's as
The
dangerous
warm-up
as we
pools.
get.
The
Yeah,
warm-up pool at World
exactly.
Series meets.
Yes, that's our
Mm-mm.
Whew.
combat, our contact sport of it all. But yeah, no,
Yeah.
the Winter Paralympics it's just full of just incredible athletes who are absolutely nuts.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I don't think like within para sports, instead of just like supporting your own sport, it's important to kind of support all of them. And so as like summer athletes, like cheering on the winter athletes, or, as swimmers being like, hey, track and field as something. Cause I think definitely as we try to get more people to watch, the biggest thing is just making sure people know about it. I think
Yeah.
because there's nothing out there that unless you go digging and
Yeah.
looking for when these events are,
Yep.
like, people want things that are easy. You
Yes.
know, you go on to ESPN and you can click on an NBA game. That's easy.
Yep.
Whereas at parasport, you have to know, okay, this is happening at
Yeah.
this time
Yep.
in Germany. So this
Yeah.
is going to be happening, at this time in the States. And I have to go to
Mhm.
this YouTube page to watch it. And I'm like, whereas if we just give people a link, then they're going to be so much more inclined to watch it. And as we grow this viewership, hopefully we can get to be on those channels and be
Yeah.
easy to watch. I think
Yeah.
that's like most
Yeah.
important part.
That's exactly right. And I think that's where, especially Cultured is trying to figure out, what is and how do we fight that battle, and it's because it's
Hmm.
it's it's unfortunate. We looked at ESPN specifically for their Instagram page. They posted 198 times, and I think you guys talked about this as well. 198 times around the Olympics and then just once around the Paralympics. And that's beyond an unacceptable choice. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And so it's like, how do we, because like I think disability, we kind of have a bad rap of like everyone just thinks we're complaining. You know what I mean? And like we're loud and annoying and asking for too much and stuff like that. And so it's like, how can we reclaim our voice? And I think that's, in disability in general. And I think that's the power of sport is being able to bring people into this. We see it with the women's sports movement, and
Hmm.
like the first time I watched the Fleet up here in Boston, it's the women's team, the hockey team, I cried my eyeballs out, like walked into that stadium and I was like, women, you know what I mean? I'm like, I love it. And so, and our athletes, I probably would have done that in Milan, watching,
Hmm.
the men, not the women, which is a different conversation and they're working on it. But still being able to see that representation and see that they sold out. You know what I mean? Like that's the
Hmm.
other thing is like not only did they sold out, they had to sell more freaking seats because there was more demand. And so it's like, you guys have seen it. There is a demand. Let's close this gap. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
perfect.
perfect.
Oh my gosh. Well, I actually
Okay.
kinda I wanted to derail a little bit from talking about Cultured and the coverage at Milan,
Mhm.
which was insane. I also agree, like, the ice hockey selling out and having to sell more tickets, like, we are on the right track for sure. But
Like we just
going
need to get
back,
people excited.
yes,
Hmm.
people just need to be excited, but going back a few steps, like, you were a 2012 Paralympian. Like, it's been a few years since then. How
Hmm.
first of all, I'm also intrigued just on your own personal journey and, like, the nuances with that, but also just, like, to start off, what is the difference you've seen between 2012 London to 2026 Milan in, like, coverage, support, like, fanfare? Like, what has that been looking like?
Yeah, I think it's a nuanced question because
Mhm.
I think there's been such strides, like seeing the athletes have, these little uh, like changing rooms with their names on it and the social media going into it and all the swag and stuff like that. Like I think that's incredible because in London it was you went into like an open room and then you just were like this fits, okay, this fits, okay, this fits, and you're just like with every other athlete. I mean obviously there was like girls boys whatever, but like you were just there wasn't really a bunch of fanfare. And then we even got equipment that had Olympic logos on it, and we were not allowed to use them, wear them, or like
Oh.
we had to either duct tape them because you cannot have the Olympic logos anywhere in the Paralympics. It's just a no-no. But certain sponsors actually gave us swag that we were not allowed to use. And so I think there's been enormous stride in that and seeing the equity of Paralympians finally being paid the same and then things like that. And I think from those perspectives, they're definitely getting bigger. But I would say, from the perspective of me coming home as an athlete in 2012 and the athletes coming home from Milan to the US, probably the exact same response, unfortunately. And that's why I say that I think there's a little bit of nuance where there's these huge growths within the small systems that specifically have to pay attention to the athletes, but it's not getting into mainstream and things like that. And
Mhm.
that's because there's not enough disabled people running and being in part of these systems and advocating because it's a bunch of non-disabled people who frankly at best just don't understand it and at worst don't think that we're worth it. And so I think there's been so much right in Milan. I mean, compared to Beijing, the coverage was, outstanding, but you can't fall out of a basement. And there was still very big gaps and there was just no record, like no reporting, you just hear that obnoxious ass drone just the whole time, you know what I mean?
Literally,
You
literally.
know,
Yeah.
yeah, or like, zoomed in on just empty seats in between periods of ice hockey and or there's was like their commercials were not paid. So it was just like a cute
Mhm.
little loading screen of NBC will be right back. And you're like, why, where's the disabled, where's Nike? Where's Nike advertising all of their crap? Where's Adidas? Where is, and things like that. So
Mhm.
anyway, sorry. Bit of a longer answer than I meant to
No,
have, but
but
yeah.
it's important,
No,
and
yeah,
I
I
think
definitely agree.
no, you got it, OC.
Go for it, Grace. Oh,
Nope.
okay. I was just gonna say, especially when you we do this often, but
We got it. We got it. We got it.
I was gonna agree, like, because Nike and Adidas, I have both seen have sponsored Paralympic athletes. So, and are sponsors of the games, even Paralympic games. Like that's what our gear is.
Yep.
So it's like so fascinating to see that. Yeah, they don't have the ads on during like the coverage because they are, you know, it looks like saying they're supporting the Paralympics. And, it is good. It is a step that they're recognizing and bringing on these athletes. I'm not, downplaying that at all because that is
Yeah.
definitely a step in the right direction. But
Yeah.
then it's like, well, this is a great opportunity to show that to the world and to show that Paralympic athletes are elite athletes, just like I feel like the message you're trying to display when bringing them on. So why aren't we like, playing ads?
Yep.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. There's such a and I like I said, I think it goes back to who's in the room, and as we know, who has power over us and not just Paralympians, but athletes. And, I think it's a broader conversation because even, as much as women's sports is growing, I can't get Google notifications unless I sign up for them to see the fleet and their score,
Hmm.
and you have to download a very specific app and it's all on YouTube and it's the same thing where there's missing advertising. It just literally is like we're in an ad break and it's like where's Elf? Where's Mac? Like, you know what I mean? Like where are the
Yeah.
LGBTQ, brands, you know what I mean? Like there's 12,000 people on YouTube and it's streaming on other platforms. There's 12,000 people on YouTube and they don't think that that's worth putting in a commercial. And it's the same thing for disability. And it's like, you're missing out on like prime people who are
Hmm.
like paying attention and passionate. And so, anyway, again, another soapbox for you here, but it's just crazy.
No, especially from your corporate perspective too in that background, like, you're talking about, like, marketing and ads, and, like, I
Yeah.
took maybe, like, 5 m marketing classes in undergrad, so I'm, like, honed in too. I'm like, "Wow, this is a really big miss on their end," because it's true, like,
Hmm.
and I think to Olivia's point as well, like, having those advertisements, it's like, cost benefit analysis, sure, whatever, throw it out the window, but it's, like, showing your support, and it, like, makes me mad that, like, the economy is just favoring money so much more over morals or what's right or, like, people. Like, they just, like, forget
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
we're
that's
all
what I was gonna
people.
say. It's all money. Like it
Yeah.
doesn't.
Which
It
is
That's what it
annoying.
boils down to is money, and it's just not in the Paris in our favor at all,
Yeah.
No.
in para or women. So.
Exactly. And that's why it's so incredible seeing the women push so much for this because they have been told, since the beginning of time, but especially in the
Mhm.
last 10 decades, as they've been pushing this movement forward, essentially, and this is where I think disability is too, is like we were waiting for the men to care, and at this point, that is not gonna happen in the way in which we would like it to. And so, I think it's building that conversation and pushing through and being like, you know, the men say there's no money here, but look at all this swag we just freaking sold. You know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
look at these sold out arenas. Like the fleet sold out TD Garden. Like it,
Mhm.
I'm gonna get myself heated again, but and it's just yeah, it's like if you like money, at this point it's like okay, but like that's how you get money. At this point, you just don't like women. You just don't like disabled people.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
let's just start saying the quiet parts out loud because
Yeah.
it's there. That's what it is at this point, and I think it's time for us to start being like, yeah, 198 to one post. That's a choice. That is a choice that someone
I
made, and it was
yeah.
not a disabled person. And so,
Mm-mm.
yeah.
'Cause
And
even,
it's not
like
like the Olympics and Paralympics were going on at the same time.
Right.
They
Like,
had plenty of dedicated time.
yeah.
And they have plenty of resources. And also just like even seeing the WNBA draft this year and seeing how much more
Yeah.
money these women are starting to earn
Yes.
compared to previous years, like that money's there. Like it's been there.
Yes.
Like people are
Yes.
starting to care and they're
Yep.
like, oh, hmm,
Yeah. All it
maybe they
takes
are
is
elite.
really
Yeah.
Yeah, all it takes, I feel like it's really one athlete to like bring the community in. Cause like I went to college at University of Northern Iowa, so I saw what like Caitlin Clark did
Yeah.
for Iowa as a whole. And like they were selling everyone in the stands had Caitlin Clark jerseys, not
Yep.
some man.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
and so that was like really cool to see and be like, wow, these women's games are bringing in more people
Yeah.
than the men's just because of this one player. So like all it's going to take is one Paralympic athlete to like really get a community like drawn in. Like all they have to do is be like, "Oh my gosh, she's from my town,"
Yeah.
and then they'll start sharing that and spreading that, and all of a sudden now the whole state is invested, and then
Yeah.
another states will like, "Oh, we have a competitor who can, potentially beat yours," and kind of things
Mhm.
like that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Building up that, like I said, the fanfare and stuff like that, and it sucks. It sucks that it's on Caitlin to do that. It sucks
Yeah.
that it's on Aja Wilson and everyone else. And it's the same thing, for the women as well. Hillary Knight and, Megan Keller, incredible human beings who are out there, absorbing all the hate, like they got to, like we all saw what the men, response to the jokes about them were and stuff like that. And we can take offense to that, but they have to eat that for breakfast. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, it's yes, absolutely. And, it's like, what can we do to keep lifting up athletes so it doesn't have to constantly be on our shoulders? It's
Hmm.
always on the marginalized. And so it's like we got to get more systems working in our favor.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I you saying the word marginalized, but then also just talking about like all this stuff. I'm like so many light bulbs are going off in my head right now because and hopefully this doesn't turn into a spiel. I'll try to keep it short. But I'm taking this
Yeah,
stress
get it.
development class and we're talking about discrimination and marginalized communities and how it's affecting their stress biology. Like there is
Yep,
science backing up. And so it's like when is discrimination going to be a global health crisis? Because at
it
the end of
is.
the day, this is more than sports. It is affecting
Yep,
people's stress and neurobiology, and it's like, ah! It's
yep,
like and it's
yep.
mental health month too now because it's May 1st as we're recording this, so I'm just like,
Oh, yeah.
how should we tie this in this month? Because I just like it's
Yes.
all so connected, and that also
Yes.
kind of brings me to my next question because in your little
Mm,
Spark Talk blurb, you talked
mm,
about you had an injury right before Rio. And I mean,
mm,
you saying that, I am like, oh my gosh, I felt that. I felt because I'm
mhm,
not at the same scale, but that happened to me right before a conference meet in college. So I was like,
mhm.
I can't imagine. So, how, like, are you okay? Like, what was
Yeah.
like?
That's a great question. We're still working on it. We're still working on it. But, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know if you can see, I've got serotonin, the chemical symbol
gotcha.
tattooed onto my arm
That's
and things like
cool.
that. So
That is cool.
So
it
that's when
was,
you
I mean,
know.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was like, maybe if I just tattoo it on my skin, it'll work. We're still waiting. We're still waiting. But, no, it was extremely difficult, and I think, again, it goes back to, I mean, exactly what you're saying. If someone like Michael Phelps, who has all the attention in the world, all the resources in the world, all the medals in the world, can come back home and feel that weight of depression and still have the platform and resources that he does, the athletes, especially Paralympians, like we there was no fanfare when I retired. The NGB did not email me to let me know, hey, I hope your surgery went well. Like
Mhm.
there's a lot that went wrong with how I went out, and it was unfortunate and sad. And I think we have to do better by our athletes who are retiring. And I think, Team USA, the USOPC, they're starting to develop those resources. But, I think athletes are finally starting to understand their own voice within this as well and speak up for it. Because yeah, I had to retire because, so God is a very funny person, and she gave me some extra ribs. So I had what's called thoracic outlet syndrome, and so I had an extra rib, like right above my first rib, and so I also had to have. I slipped and fell because I'm a swimmer and I don't do well on land. And I tore my tore my labrum, and that was back in like 2013, and it was just really hard for me to come back from. And then we did a little bit more internal research, x-rays, whatever you want research, x-rays, and found the extra rib. So, but the unfortunate part was that it was causing pretty significant nerve damage in my one hand. And so I couldn't really feel that much in my pinky or my ring finger. And then I was having nerve pain to the point of like crying almost every time after practice in the night. And then it also was causing blood clots. And so it was a conversation of you could push and try and go to the games. I had, I like could not. It was very hard to come back from the labrum surgery, and so it was, go for Rio and risk your only hand, risk blood clots, risk
Mhm.
nerve damage that will never come back, or retire. And so I at that point, and I think every athlete kind of finds their retirement point anyway of like once you start showing up to practices and you're like, I don't want to be here. This is, and like beyond the like, I don't like the pool is cold, blah, blah, whatever. Like
Yeah.
once you like have like a deep soul ache and you're like, I don't want to be here anymore, it's like maybe. And so it just kind of got to a point where, like I said, it was truly just so painful to swim. And so, yeah, and so made that decision, and I got lucky to get a job with Speedo actually, a couple months after retiring, thanks to my coach Chuck Batchelor, who also coached Elizabeth Feisel and some other
Huh.
Olympians. So really got lucky with that, and started my corporate wild career. But yeah. So I'm I think I'm doing okay, but I think it also that's why I'm so excited to be, excited you guys are doing stuff like this, having the real conversations, but also being part of culture of like, it's the holistic part of the culture of the athlete and that retirement or
Mhm.
even just the post game blues, like even if you had the best games in your entire life, you come home and you're like, what am I? Who am I? What am I
Yeah.
doing with my life? And so, yeah, and Paralympians just don't have the same resources to process that. And so, yeah, it's definitely part of my fight now to keep talking
Yeah.
and trying to protect and make sure that athletes don't have to go through that.
No, I can 100% appreciate that because even, like, coming home from Paris, like, it took so I got home from Paris September. We
Mm,
had conference for college in March, so I didn't really take much of a break. I took maybe, like, a month or a little less off. It took until my conference meet at the end of March for my coach to finally be like, "Welcome back," because I
yeah.
was
Yep.
just so, like I was like, "What am I
Yeah.
doing?" Like, I'm behind the
Yeah.
blocks, and I just can't feel excited for it because 'cause I'm like, "Oh, it's not Paris." I'm like,
Yeah.
"What
Yeah.
what?" And then you just
Yeah.
feel so lost,
Just
so
flop around. Yeah.
literally, I'm like, I'll do my
Yeah.
100 free."
I feel like yeah, I definitely, everything's not going to be as big and as exciting as, the Paralympic Games, and it just can't be. But I feel like I had heard about like post game blues, and I knew the importance of like every race is an opportunity to get up and race no matter how big or small the stage was. So I feel like going in with that knowledge and then just taking Paris all in and then coming home, and like Grace, we were both seniors, so we didn't really take much time off and then just kind
Mm,
of jumping into the college season. And I feel like I really made it like my goal to be like, every race is fun. Just get up
yeah.
and just have a blast. And then so I feel like it didn't really hit me until like after my college season was over, and I was like, and all of my teammates and people in my class and everyone around me was asking like, what are you going to do with your life? And it's like the answer of swimming was not enough for most people, where in my life I felt like it was enough and that's
Yeah.
what I want to do. But
Yeah.
like to everyone else, they were just like, well, you've been swimming already and doing school, so like why aren't you doing anything else on top of that, kind of. And like it was both like I feel like an internal battle of being like, well,
Mm,
I need to do more. I need
mm,
to do more. And so that's kind of like how the podcast took shape. And like,
Nice.
it definitely is an interesting feeling of coming home. Not everything's like as cool or big or exciting. And then just like on top of that, like being a like pro para athlete and people being like, "But what else are you gonna do?" And I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, I don't
That
know."
was it, dude.
And
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
how I'm just swimming right now and trying to figure it out. I'm also like, 22 years old, so
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like everyone is like, you have to have your life planned out, and I am not much of a planner or that far in advance. Right? I just take things day by day, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. Like,
Yeah. Seems like
asking
the
too many
tomorrow my
questions.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
it's
No,
just
but I do appreciate you being open and honest about your experience leading up to Rio, because like I again, that is a lot for anybody, and I feel you on the injury and the
Mhm.
crying in the night through the pain. Like that is the worst, and it does take a lot when like swimming is your identity and that's what you put
Yep.
so much into, to be like,
mhm.
listen, I have to value other things because you've
Yep.
never, which I don't know if this was your experience, but it's like
It's
never in our lives have we valued other things outside of the pool. So it's
Mhm.
mhm.
just
Yep.
like hard to make that transition. And then now, to your point, you
And
was in corporate. Now you're have your own consulting firm and you're with Cultured, and it's like the world is spinning so fast, so fast.
yeah, yeah. Well, and I feel like to your point, you were like, I don't want to risk losing my, one and only hand.
Yeah.
And you have to take that into account. And people don't realize like
Yeah.
swimming has been our whole lives. It's where we found ourselves. It's where
Yep.
like, well, I don't say like swimming isn't all of me. Like I'm more than a swimmer, but like people don't realize how much swimming impacted and allowed me to accept myself and
Yeah.
allowed me to find that community. And like losing that, I lose, my disabled community and things like that. But you can't also like change the rest of your life. Like there's more beyond swimming later on, and losing your one and only hand, or like losing more eyesight or anything, like becoming more disabled is not something we want to do. And if swimming is going to do that to you, you have to like hang up the cap and goggles. And I feel like people think that that's going to be an easy decision. It's like, well, duh, I'm going to choose my arm over my swimming career, but like it's more than that. It's like it's our community, it's where we found ourselves and things like that. So people just don't realize like how
Yeah.
important it is.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's taken me 8 years to get back in the pool.
Oh wow.
It took me, it's just like there just wasn't much in me. I'd swim every once in a while and I still love being in the water and stuff like that, but yeah, it's taken me 8 years to get back into a little bit of a routine. I actually well, I'll say there's a fun fact at the end of this of what came and surprised me, so I'll wait for that. But it's, yeah, it's been but I think leaving when I got into corporate to your point about identity, I had to really just not be a swimmer, be a Paralympian.
Mhm.
Like they didn't know what that was, so me leaning into that only made things worse. And so I had to kind of become a whole different person. And obviously I kept talking about disability and stuff like that, but like had to create someone and be what I thought corporate wanted and things like that. And so I spent, a good decade of just being not me. And so being able
That's
to start
crazy.
my own
Yeah.
yeah, yep. And so now,
Like
I think that's the freedom of creating my own, yeah, business.
Mhm.
like showing up,
Ex-
this thing you've worked for your entire life, the thing you're probably the most proud of, oh, you have to hide it because it's making every other sphere of my life more difficult.
Yep, that's exactly right. I mean, because they don't know what it is, right? They see your disability,
No.
they don't know what the Paralympics are, I mean,
Mhm.
and we all have those stories of, the
Yeah.
random micro or macro ableism and stuff like that. But like, so there was an organization that I worked after Speedo here in Boston, and like the head of HR said came up to me and was like, you young you young people are so more open with things like it's I think you're being like really whatever about stuff. And to be honest, I was wearing a shirt that had like a tiny little like hole in it, and so I thought she was saying that I was being promiscuous and that, like, I was wearing a shirt that shouldn't be I was like, "Oh, I'm being, like, too whatever for this, like, nonprofit." Turned out it was because I was wearing short sleeves, and she thought I was being brave by wearing short sleeves in the summer because I have one hand,
Oh.
and she was calling me brave for not covering up. And so I was like, when you are faced with, they don't even know anything past your disability, and then when it's just the disability, that's a whole other fight. And so I ended up getting into a lot of DE&I work, especially after the murder of George Floyd. And so ended up running multiple DE&I ERGs for the Boston office, ran disability inclusion task forces, helped start ERGs within that system that I was telling you about the HR director. And stuff like that, because it just was like, this is ridiculous. Like, we got to do better. And, I tried to fight that fight. Unfortunately, corporate America is winning the fight against DE&I, but I think the pendulum is, I think, as bad as it is right now, obviously it's also a mirror to what it has always been. And so hopefully that will help, make sure that we can't go back to this. But yes, yeah, it was not for me. That is why I had to hop off the ladder, because being a woman in the corporate world, they don't want it. Being a disabled woman in the corporate world, they don't even understand it. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
I feel like just some things people can say, just like, kind of take me aback. But just so we don't run out of time,
Yes, yeah,
there was
sorry.
something I really wanted to. No, you're good. There was really something that I was curious about and wanted to cover. So I saw on Instagram a few weeks back that you will be on the awarding jury for
Mm,
the Lion for Change,
yes.
and I just kind of wanted to know like what that is, what your job, what you're going to be doing for that, and
Yeah.
whatever else you want to share.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking about that. It's so exciting. Yeah, so Cannes Lion is a big festival in France every year, kind of like a South by Southwest, but fancy and French. And put on by British people because it's Europe, and so but it's so what they have is, they also have awards that go out to, especially in marketing and communications, and stuff like that. And so they have all these different awards, best digital, best whatever, but they have this award that you mentioned, the Glass Lion, and it's about campaigns or movements that create change within marginalized communities. So it's all about work that has to have purpose, has to create a difference, and things like that. And so not only is it an incredible honor to be like, they chose me to be a judge. When they emailed me, I literally thought I was being catfished. I was like, they're like, "Do you want to be on this board, and or do you want to be a jury member?" And I was like, yes, I would love to. It'd be an honor. And then, like, it just kept happening, and like, and then they finally got to post it. I was like, okay, this might be real. This might be real. And so, like, just blown away from that in general. But this specific award is dedicated towards purpose. Like, it's not just like some cute marketing campaign. It's not about like the left right Twix, or like, what M&M is too sexy, or whatever it is. It's true purpose work, and and organizations dedicated to making a change. And so not only that, but then the other jurors are incredible people within their own right as well. So being able to not only see what these organizations are doing, but I get to then be part of a group of other people from around the world with their own lived experiences of marginalizations, and things like that, and bring that, and then we all get to help kind of judge and figure out like who did it best.
That is so fascinating, because I too, I saw you post that, and I was like, "I'm gonna be honest, I have no idea what that means." So
You're
I
like,
was
sounds
like,
cool.
I sent a screenshot to OC. I was like, "OC, add
Yeah.
this to the questions list. We
Google.
need to figure this out."
I was like, I'm just gonna ask. I don't know
Yeah,
what it is, but I just
easier.
wanna let her
Yeah,
share and
exactly.
let us
Yeah,
know. So that's really
yeah,
cool. Yeah.
That
So will
is
you
yeah.
get
really
to
neat.
travel to France for it?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So
Ooh.
that's really exciting. We're gonna be, I'm gonna be there for 6 days, and then I'm bringing my husband, who's also a Paralympic swimmer, retired as
Oh,
well,
nice.
three-time
Oh,
Michael Prout's, three-time Paralympic swimmer, gold and bronze medalist, also coached Tokyo. So I'm bringing his butt over, and dragging him over. And then, yeah, and then, hopefully, I think from a cultured perspective as well, going to start doing some research to see, if other elite, Paralympic athletes or elite disabled athletes are going to be there, and see what kind of trouble I can drum up there as well.
love it. Love it. Everything
Yeah.
you've said so far, like, I've so thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you and your story, and also just like
Mhm.
what you've been up to, because I'm like, wait, like, you're really cool. Like, let's be friends. Like,
Yeah.
let's hang out. Like,
Yes, yeah, no, I'm so excited. I mean, I've heard about you guys obviously and knew that there was two Paralympic swimmers who are taking the world on by storm and having the conversations that need to be had. And so it's awesome. I'm so excited for you guys. I'm excited to be on this and I can't wait to keep working together and in
yeah,
different capacities to just keep moving para sport forward because it's an uphill
literally.
battle, but the more we do it
Yeah.
together, I think that the easier it'll get.
I definitely
Yeah, well,
agree.
thank you for working with us. Yeah, I think teamwork is probably the best way to go about this.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
more people we have on our side, like, the better I think things
Yeah.
will go. But so, like, what's just kind of next for you? Obviously, you have going to France, but
Mm.
anything else?
No, I think those are the big ones, really just trying to figure out again, what culture can do to close the gap now, especially before LA
Mhm.
28. There's so many amazing competitions going on. And so we're really trying to do the research or the advocacy to push that forward. So stay tuned as we, start getting into the weeds and the mud and all that good stuff. And yeah, so just
Yes,
stay tuned.
I
we
hope
will
you're, like,
definitely do
poolside
research.
or somewhere around the pool for LA so we can hang out.
Yes,
Yes,
yeah, yes,
maybe
absolutely.
at
No,
trials or something.
I
Yeah,
know,
come to
exactly. I'll just be a
trials.
volunteer. It'll be fine. Yeah, I'm just gonna sneak onto the deck and be like, "Oh, no, I'm an athlete. It's fine. You can't tell. I'm
Yeah.
disabled.
Don't
Don't
Yeah.
worry
I? It's
about
fine."
me.
Exactly.
Literally,
I'll
literally,
just
don't worry about me.
jump into one of your swim bags. It's fine.
I'm sure we can get a media pass or something.
That's
Gotta
well,
be
yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
exactly. That is something we're gonna look at. I think that's something we really
Yeah.
want to be is as on the ground, and because there's not enough. There are some
Mhm.
disabled people doing, NBC and stuff like that and reporting. It's very like
Yeah.
polished and amazing and stuff like that. But I think we're also missing that like raw, gritty, like talking to the swimmers, right after the race where they're like,
Yeah.
they're like fighting for fighting for their life, and you're like, how do you think that go? And you're like, I don't know. I can't even see straight. So yeah, we need
No,
that.
I can't even see to
Yes.
begin with.
Fair
Um,
enough.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
well,
the
I mean, like,
interviewers
if
are always like, "How do you think that went?" And I'm like, "Well, I don't know what I went."
yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know
you're
what
like,
Like,
that's
happened.
a great
you
question.
got
You
to
tell
me
me. Yeah.
before I got to someone who could tell me my time. So,
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
exactly. What did you
Oh my
think of
gosh.
our race? Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe the 3 of us should go to, like, track trials or something, and we can all just be there with
Yes.
microphones, like,
Yeah, just
"How's it
bothering other
going,
people.
guys?"
It'll be
interviewing.
amazing. Yes,
That'd be
Literally,
so
absolutely.
fun.
literally. Oh my
Mm.
Plan.
gosh.
Absolutely.
Well, I think we're gonna start wrapping up this episode because
Yeah.
this has been a joy, and we've literally covered so much in such a short amount of
Yeah.
time, which
Mhm.
I've loved.
Yeah.
Um, but before we do wrap it up, and Anna,
Yes.
I think
Honor
OC.
or AJ?
Oh my gosh! Wait, wait, wait.
Perfect.
Okay, hang on.
Yes.
I
That's
started
why I go by
saying, and I was
AJ.
like, oh, AJ. Okay,
No.
okay,
Yes, that's why I go by AJ. Makes it a little bit easier. Yes.
Everyone
okay.
does.
So before
Perfect.
we do start wrapping up, Anna, I think OC has a final question for you.
Mm.
Yes. What is a story from your life that you did not see coming?
It's a great question. I mean, my entire life has been a story that I did not see coming. It's to be honest, between just falling through a lot of different cracks to be a Paralympian and train with different Olympians, train at the University of Louisville, train at the Olympic Training Center, train with Chuck Batchelor. I think I've had so many different twists and turns, but I think the most recent one is I tore my ACL in
Oh,
December because like I said, I am a swimmer and I don't mess with land. So I was running down the stairs, trying to get out the door a little bit too quickly. And I tried to jump a stair because I was like, forgot that I was a 32-year-old retired athlete and not a 21-year-old current athlete. And so I jumped, my foot stayed, my knee went that way, tore my ACL,
Ooh.
popped my knee out, had to pop it back in.
oh,
And so yeah, and so I had to wait about a month and a half to get surgery, and so for a month and a half, I was down to, like, one good limb. So I had to experience a completely different type of disability. I had to move around
oh
my house
my
completely
gosh.
different,
Yeah, that is
like
crazy.
and so I had surgery back in January, and so I'm at the 3.5 month mark, and I'm starting to walk and go downstairs, which is great, and so it's not a
Not jumping.
conversation. No, not yet, no, ma'am. And so Yeah, so it's been an absolutely wild ride, and not something that I could have ever seen coming. And it's been, it happened during some of the most stressful parts of my all of this, starting cultured, doing all this different stuff. And so it's been a wild ride. I even actually got shingles. It was over Christmas. I had shingles and a torn ACL. It was awesome. And so, but
Girl.
Everything coming
mhm,
out at once.
yeah, yeah. So I think trying to take that on the chin for what it's worth and just kind of, being like, okay, well, this is an interesting perspective to learn about universal design and different disabilities. And this is also an opportunity I have not worked out consistently since I retired. So it's about time to start probably doing some shit. And so, so
Oh
it's
my
something I
gosh.
definitely didn't see coming, but I'm trying to at least turn into like, all right, well, I guess this can be a wake up call if you want it to be, or, because, life hands you lemons or sometimes it hands you a turd and you got to figure out what to do with it. So,
And on that note, I love the perspective.
yes.
I did too,
The
yeah.
one good
Yep.
limb left sent me. 2 good
Yeah.
limbs left,
Yep.
1
That made me
whatever.
laugh too.
Nope. Just
Um,
one. Just my
yeah,
right leg. That was it.
but
Oh,
yeah,
that's crazy.
love your energy, love your story, and so appreciative of you taking the time to come on and chat with us today, and I hope our audience shares the exact same
Hmm.
sentiment because this was awesome.
Right back at
Yes,
you.
so
Thanks.
fun to to know another swimmer.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so
Oh my
glad to
gosh.
be connected because now we're connected forever, and I
Yes.
am so
Literally.
excited.
I'm gonna bother you
Yes.
now. I'm gonna text you every day and be like, "Listen, I have a
Good.
question. I need your help."
Hello.
There you go. I won't put
I love
anything in
it.
writing. I'll only send voice notes.
Oh, perfect, perfect. Okay, well, thank
Better.
you so much, Anna. It's been a joy, and thank you everyone else who has watched or tuned in today's episode. We appreciate you all so much, and we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Yes, thank you.